After the property, the Batman, basically 66 property, had been unavailable sort of for years.
Yeah.
Was this project for you something you've been waiting for it to be available to happen, or was something once it became available, that's when you went to actually?
Well, I was as surprised as anyone that it actually happened, because it was pretty much told to me years ago that it would never happen. So that's why I did Brave and the Bold, was because I'm like, okay, if I can't do that, I want to do this. So a lot of that era made its way into Brave and the Bold. So, but no, this is a dream come true to be able to work with Adam West on a Batman show. I mean, I cast him a couple of times. One is Thomas Wayne, and then another time as a robot Batman built that sounds like his dead father. So,
like you do.
It was that kind of show. Yeah.
Every Thursday.
So yeah, but no, and never in a million years did I think this was. I mean, for all I know, I'm dead, and this is all. It's like a 6 Feet Under episode.
The Lost Universe.
Yeah, just walking around.
Hope to hang out with us.
Yeah, cool.
Could be worse.
I don't know if that's heaven or hell. Purgatory. Okay, there you go.
So did it live up to expectations?
The experience of the movie, I don't know yet. No, it succeeded. It's I mean, again, I had worked with him before and had my fangasm moment, but just getting to work with the man, he's really what you see. Like there's no pretense about him. He's everything you would want a person who you admired as a kid to be. So it's not like there's no disappointment or like, oh, he wasn't as nice as I thought. He was really nice. And he was great. He knew the role inside and out. And I mean, no, it was a dream come true. They should pay, well, they do pay me. I should pay them. So, yeah.
When it's a project that you've been wanting to do for so long, is it really hard to narrow down to everything you want to put in it?
Yeah, it's weird because the way it ended up was pretty much the way I conceived it in my head, and then I found out everyone I was involved with were on the same page. Michael Jelenic co-wrote it with me and co-produced it, and we just kind of agreed. It was pretty easy to get it. There wasn't a lot of back and forth or arguing. It was like, no, this feels right. So no, it wasn't. It was actually pretty easy up front, but then getting into the mechanics of doing it, it was a little more challenging because we didn't want to just recreate the show, because the show is the show. Mm-hmm. We wanted to bring more elements of the comic books that inspired the show, and like we did with Brave and the Bold, use a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Definitely homage the show. There's definitely things that nod to the show. But we wanted it to be its own animal, so that was something fresh and new that would add on to people who enjoyed the show, not just replicate something they already had.
Once the property became available, did it all come together pretty quickly, or was it an arduous process?
Pretty well. Me and my boss Sam Register met with Adam probably about 6 months before we started, maybe 8 months, just to say, is this something you'd be interested in? And that was great. And he had lots of ideas, and he was cool with it. So, yeah, it was pretty easy in hindsight. But again, it's one of those things where, after, 40 years of people saying this will never happen, and then literally within a year, it had happened. I'm like, wait a minute, whoa. And so it really went by in a blur. And it was like something you had hoped and dreamed you would have a chance to do, and then it happened, and you're like, whoa, I should have kept a journal. It's like, now we're here. So.
But at any point, since this is such an iconic brand, you feel any pressure going in?
No, because I knew what I was doing. I would have killed anyone they had given it to otherwise. So no, they were wise to give it to me. It was good for everyone that they gave it.
Good for all involved.
Yeah, we all are good now.
Do you regard this as a one-off, or is your brain already cooking about where you can go from here?
My brain's on Batman 24/7. So I can't help it. So, if it does well, they don't not like success. So if it does well, yeah, And I can't talk about anything I would do yet because
But you know.
I know things.
When you're doing something where you're building a new product as sort of a mosaic of a live action and a comic into an animation, what elements of each do you try to take in order to create the most perfect version of this pastiche? Vocab word from high school.
Yeah, that's a good word. It's you just kind of do it by intuition. I know what the comics felt like. I know what the show felt like. I know what proportion feels right to me. And, ultimately we're doing these. All we have is our feelings about what feels right to us because, we don't have a focus group sitting there saying, that's not good. So it just, it's what feels right. Again, coming from the conceit that it was the fourth idea of an unofficial fourth season and putting elements of the comic into what could have been another, basically a separate series, Batman series, it necessitated changing things. So, but yet, again, homaging the feel of elements of the show without copying. So it's kind of like, but the thing is, again, wherever we changed, we went to the comics as a route. So I was like, okay, what did the comics do in this case? This is what the show did, but what did the comics do? And most of the time, the comic had done it before the show, so it wasn't that hard.
You relied on the comics slightly more?
Oh, definitely,
Okay.
yeah. Well, the thing was, the show was perfect. There's no way to beat the show. But there are things the show didn't do because of budget, because it did, as wacky as the show was, it wasn't as wacky as the 50s comics were. And I was like, well, if they had had a budget, unlimited budget, what would they have done, would Batman have gone into space? Would he have, deep sea dive? Would he, there's all these things Batman could have done on that structure that the show had that they didn't do. And within TV budgets and hurrying and filming and all that stuff. So the idea was just to blow it out and make it something bigger and different. Just so people have something else to have.
Any anxiety about showing it here?
Well, I love New York crowds, and this is the first movie I've actually been able to premiere here. And some of the other cons, the crowds, you guys have always been appreciative of anything we brought, and again, comics originated here. You guys created them, so you get it more than I think a lot of other fandoms areas do, because LA and they're jaded. I hate to say it, but they don't give the love like New York. So
That's not usually how people view New York.
oh, I love New York. Well, that's a cliche, but no, no, because if you like something here, it must be pretty good. It's like it's got to be somewhat decent.
Quick question. As you're building the universe here, and you have you've got your Batman, you've got your Robin, you've got your Catwoman. When it came to filling in the other voices, did you already have certain individuals in mind, or was that just an evolving process?
No, we kind of. Again, Wes Gleason was the voice director, so he had more of the inside knowledge of how. I just said that they should feel like, say, we didn't know what they sounded like, and we weren't trying to mimic specific voices. I said, here's what the characters look like in the comics. Here's what our designs look like, which were kind of, they were homaging the show, but also bringing in elements of the comics. So, our Penguin looks a lot more to me like the style guide art that Carmine Infantino did for the 60s Penguin. It doesn't look like Burgess Meredith. So I'm like, well, what would that sound like? And so, he ended up picking people that you get hints of the actors, but you also get a whole new interpretation that feels right. If this had been the first Batman you saw, based on the comics that came before, I think it would feel authentic to you. So, at least that was the goal.
When you and Michael were sitting down to write this, was it always all for villains, or did that ever change along the way?
Pretty much, yeah. We, again, that was the plot for the movie,
Right.
The live action movie. And we didn't want to totally replicate that. We didn't want this to be a sequel to that. so it's a very different story. It's definitely a little more surreal in places, and but yeah, that just seemed to be kind of a no-brainer because they're the most iconic villains from the show that everyone knows, and so yeah, I don't know. We never really discussed another option. You know, every Batman movie has too many villains, so keep that going.
So, with the audience of children, I find it really fascinating that I tried to sit my son down, and much to my dismay, he didn't quite love the show as much as I was hoping.
How old is he?
7 and grumpy. So,
I think 5 is the sweet spot. Get him at 5.
so do you feel that with the sophistication that kids look for in stories today, like if you look at, say, a Phineas and Ferb and the stuff, even though it's kind of crazy and out there, there's a sophistication to the humor that kids are watching. How do you manage to give them that simplicity that we all sort of, and that sort of, I don't want to say campiness, but that kind of sense of humor that we all fell in love with?
I kind of think, well, the thing about the show and is that you can watch it at any age, and I still catch stuff in it now. You know, it gets dirtier as I get older. Like, you catch stuff. So I think mainly kids are coming into it, are probably more sophisticated than I was, so they probably can still enjoy it. It's just they're enjoying it probably at a little more mature level than I was at 10, which says something about the world, not me. But, so I don't know. We didn't dumb it down or anything. We just, you know, we tried to keep the level of integrity and humor and satire, you know, that was with the property. So.
And how do you feel the kids are going to react to it? Do you think they'll be able to?
I think some kids. I think now kids have so many more opportunities to see all kinds of things. You know, it's not linear. Like with us, you know, we saw what was rerun, and you know, maybe you saw an old movie or something. Now they have YouTube. They can see any era of anything they want. They can see even the old movie serials. I didn't know the old Batman movie serials existed until I was in college. You know, like, where the hell did this come from? I didn't know about this. So they have access to a lot more. So I think now if someone's open to that, they're going to be open to it, and because it's out there, you know. So we'll see. I don't know. I hope so. I think if kids like Brave and the Bold, there's an element of that they'll like in this. That's my goal.
What you did with Aquaman, with Brave and the Bold, it's like making them Hercules from Marvel.
That's exactly what we did.